Now, in another topic, let's talk about something less dangerous and pretty much tame for most of it. Because it's so common, we see it on a daily basis. Even I am 80% sure there's one person is doing it right now while you're watching this video. Or even it's you. My name is Marsya Briano, I'm from BSI Kalimalang. And I'm gonna talk about smoking. That's right, the most normal thing you see fathers and teenagers do nowadays. In fact, according to rankingroyals.com, Indonesia is top of the chain with 71.4% of adults that smokes, followed by Myanmar and Timor-Leste on second and third place. I don't know if you're supposed to be proud that we're finally number one or something, but judging the fact that is a number one list of how many smokers we have is somewhat a bit concerning. But now, in recent days, I can say that Indonesia, in terms of smoking, is getting worse with 38% of smoking rate. And not to mention that according to Tobacco Atlas, they calculated around 8.7% of youth smokers. There is a growing concern in our country right now because if this keeps growing, this is highly affect the growth of our generation and highly affect our nation's future. But enough with the static. I can rant all day, any day, about the havoc of smokers in our beloved country. We see them clearly, like the sun, and around us, especially around our beloved campus, BSI, Bina Sarana Informatika. And now, I know this is already a public secret, and most of us already know who is smoking in the back of the campus. But because of that, I think it made it a bit more unsafe for most of the students here. Because even though you're not smoking directly, the smoke itself can cause harm to your skin and organs if you inhale it accidentally. Smoking can lead to several severe damage to your body and organs. It can lead to lung cancer, heart disease, stroke, and even the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. I don't even know if that exists. Yeah, now I'm contemplating on my life choices as a smoker myself. But I digress. Even so, when they buy a cigarette pack, there is already a warning on the pack that says smoking kills you, with a picture of someone who is having the same disease that I just mentioned a while ago. I don't know what they were on when they were making the design, but I'm sure that it helps. I'm sure that it helps smokers quit. Not only that, the campus have a huge sign that symbolizes that this is a free smoking area, and yet students find a curve around it and still smoke in the area, even if the supposed hidden place is tight, narrow, and dark. They will risk it only just for a puff of that sweet bitter nicotine that they inhale it so freely. This concludes that the rules don't wait as much as they used to, because given the circumstances of students smoking in a non-smoking area and still get away with it, includes that, like I said, rules don't mean the same anymore. The way I see it, that these rules are just a display to fill up blank spots on the campus building for them. So, Mars, what's the solution of this problem we're having? Well, there's a few solutions. So the first one is that make the rule more stricter around the campus. And second, because people can buy cigarettes easily from its cheap price, as I suggest raising the price just a little bit so they contemplating about it. Should they buy milk for their child? Or should they buy a cigarette pack that slowly kills their family? Tough choice, huh? And lastly, awareness. The main problem is awareness of the problem that it causes. I'm 100% sure that smokers know the disease they can get by smoking, but they choose to ignore it because they mostly think that their immune system is strong. I mean, if you want it, then go ahead. Smoke 2 packs a day for all I care. But the lack of awareness around them makes it 2 times more concerning because it spreads through clothes, another item that gets exposed to the smoke. So my last solution is awareness to the smokers. At least take a bath after you smoke, or even better, stop smoking.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Marsya. I'm from BSI Kalimalang, and I'm here to present my topic of the usage of modal in request words. So, first off, what is modal verb? Modal verb shows possibility, intent, and ability, or necessity. Common example of modal verbs include can, should, or and must. Because they are a type of auxiliary verb or helper verb, they are used alongside the infinitive form or basic form of verb of the main verb of the sentence. Modal verbs are used to express certain hypothetical conditions such as admissibility, capability, and request. They are used alongside the main verb to inflect its meaning. Here's some of the modal verb examples. So, modal verb are used frequently used in English, but most of us don't know what they are. So here's a few main examples of what modal verbs are. So first, can, may, might, could, should, would, will, must. Although their modal verbs is rarely used or used on a special occasions such as shall and ought, you can only hear them in a fantasy film that takes place in medieval times or some British movies nowadays. There are verbs that can function either as main verbs or as modal auxiliaries, depending on the context, got, need, and have all behave all. There are also verbs that can function either as main verbs or as modal auxiliaries, depending on the context, got, need, and have all behave like modal verbs in the common colloquial expressions got to, need to, and have to. There are also verbs that can function either as main verbs or as modal auxiliaries, depending on the context, got, need, and have all behave like modal verbs in the common colloquial expressions got to, need to, and have to. So this is the usage of the modal verbs. So first, common modals in requests. This is the main topic of our presentation, of my presentation. The first word is can. It's used for informal requests such as can you lend me your pen? Can I have a look at that, please? And could, a more polite and formal way to make a request. Could you please take a message? Could I borrow your car? That is a more polite way to ask for something. So this is the third word that is would used for a very polite request, often with yo, you mind. Would you mind helping me with this? Would you please open the window? Please make me some cup of tea. The fourth word is may. This for formal requests for permissions. May I use your phone? May I see your password, please? May I see your ID? So we have the word will can be used for requests sometimes perceived as less polite than could or would. Will you please shut the door? Will you please lend me some money? Or will you please give me some attention? That is some of the few examples of the model words. So this is the additional tips for politeness. Add please. Placing please at the end of the sentence or after the subject makes the request more polite. Could you pass the salt please? Would you please close the door? And then use would you mind. This phrase is very polite way to make a request or ask for permissions. Would you mind not using your phone during the meeting? That is example of the usage of the modal word, modal verbs. Okay, so how to use modal verbs in any verbs or tenses. Here are a few way with examples and how to use modal verb in any tenses. So first, there's simple present. For basic sentences in the simple present tense, remember these rules. First, modal verbs can directly before the main verbs except for the for in question. Second, with modal verbs, use the infinitive form of the main verb with most but not all modal verbs. Twist drop from the infinitive. So if you want to brag about your ability to eat an entire pizza, use the modal verb can before the infinitive form eat without to. which is simply eat. The rest of the sentence continue as normal. Example, I can eat an entire pizza. If you want to communicate that circumstance are requiring you to eat an entire pizza, you might use the modal verb have before the infinitive form of eat, pertaining to example, I have to eat an entire pizza. The second one is in questions sentences for yes or no questions. You still use the infinitive form of the main verb, but the order is a little different. The formula for modal verb in yes or no question is modal verb plus subject plus main verb infinitive. For example, can you eat an entire pizza? Example. Another example is, do you have to eat another pizza? Note that the second Note that in the second example above, because have is a verb that only sometimes function as an auxiliary verb and at other times function as a main verb, the question is formed with the auxiliary verb do at the beginning. Now we have present continuous. After the modal verb, use the word be followed by the ing form of the main verb. The formula for modal verb in the present continuous is modal verb plus be for plus verb in ing form. Example, I should be going. Now we have present perfect continuous. You can add a modal verb before a main verb in the present perfect continuous tense without changing much. However, note that the main verb always forms the present perfect continuous using have been when appearing with a modal verb. Never had been, even if the subject is a third person. The formula for modal verb in present perfect continuous is modal verb plus have been plus main verb in ing form. Example, she must have been sleeping. Now we have simple past of the main modal verbs list at the top at the previous examples. Only can and will can be used in the simple past. The expression have to and need to can also be used in the simple past with conjugated as had to and needed to. Other modals verb use the present perfect to discuss even in the past. Can and will use their past perfect forms plus to infinitive form of the main verb without to, just like in the present. The formula for modal verb in the simple past present The formula for modal verbs in the simple past tense is could or would plus main verb infinitive. Example, I could do a handstand when I was a kid. Another example is during exam seasons in college, I would not sleep much. Well, now we have present tense. To form the present perfect using the modal verbs could, might, should, or would, use the present perfect form of the main verb, which is have, plus the past particle. As with the present perfect continuous, you always use have, even if the subject is a third person. The formula for a modal verb in present perfect tense is could, or might, or should, or would, plus have, plus main verb past particle. For example, I might have gone to the party, but I forgot. All already formed with the modal verb will, when you want to indicate likelihood, permission, or any other condition discussed above in the future, it often makes it to do it in some other way than by adding a modal verb. They will be more likely to come over tomorrow if you gave them plenty of warning. However, there are also situations where a modal verb other than will can be used to discuss something in the future. In these cases, the new modal verb just replaces will in the sentence, and the main verb takes the same form it would with will. For example, I can hang out tomorrow. Another example is, could I be majoring in law next year? Another example is, they should have left by the time we get there. And the last example is, 10 years from now, I may have traveled to more conferences than I care to recall. That is all for what, okay? That is all of what I can present to you on the topic of the usage of modal words on request words. On to the next topic with my friends.